The Capitol Crawl, taking a crawl in history. On March 12, 1990, disability rights activists gathered by the U.S. Capitol building. They all had the same goal in mind, to reach the top of the Capitol steps. Their purpose? To achieve rights for disabled Americans. The Capitol Crawl was seen as the most important event that led up to the passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act. It was led by activists that were a part of an organization called ADAPT.
We're going to march until Congress starts listening to us. They're stalling the bill that's going to give us equal rights, and we aren't asking for civil rights. We're demanding them, and now.
Over 1,000 activists came to the Capitol on March 12, 1990 and crawled 83 stone steps to the top, demanding passage of the ADA, which would give rights to disabled Americans across the country. The ADA unofficially started many years before the Capitol Crawl or any related protests took place, even decades before. Concerns about discrimination against disabled Americans started out unheard of in cities and towns around the U.S., but citizens began to notice the unfairness of how disabled people were treated by society.
Back in the 1800s, many states and municipalities passed ugly laws, what were known as ugly laws, i.e. if you looked different, you were not allowed to be on the public streets. You literally were to be out of sight and out of mind. And if you weren't, you were fined and incarcerated.
In addition to ugly laws, disabled women were sterilized involuntarily because they were seen as a burden on society. 33 states passed laws to sterilize people who were feeble-minded, insane, epileptic, blind, deaf, or crippled. In some states like Virginia, disabled people weren't allowed to marry. Even before these laws were in place, public opinion was slowly changing. When disabled veterans came back from World War I, Congress passed rehabilitation programs. Bigger and bigger steps were taken for the better. Returning blind veterans founded the American Foundation for the Blind. They wanted people to know that the blind were capable of living independent lives. Then, after World War II, returning veterans created another society fighting for independent living as well, the Paralyzed Veterans of America. In 1965, Medicaid started helping low-income and disabled people. In 1968, the first International Special Olympic Games were held in Chicago. In 1974, the last of the ugly laws were repealed. After many protests, in 1975, the law guaranteed a free, appropriate, and public education for all disabled children. But this wasn't enough for disability activists. They still lacked accessibility, faced job discrimination, and needed more protection and help to lead independent lives. ADAPT organized multiple protests, including protests in Canada. Wade Blank, the leader of this organization, helped organize the Capitol Crawl. The hope was that this would bring attention to their cause and the act would be signed. Over 1,000 people gathered from 30 different states. Rallies and speeches were held throughout the day, leading up to the most important event.
The night before, they asked for volunteers to, crawl up the steps, And I thought it was a great idea. Some people were really against it. They thought that it would be really demeaning to see a bunch of disabled people crawling up steps, So why not let them see some reality? And there was this little girl who was right ahead of me, And I said, oh my gosh, this little girl she has cerebral palsy. This little girl is gonna climb up the steps ahead of me and I'm not gonna be able to make it. And she's gonna make me look really stupid,
Hey, come on, Jennifer. Come on, girl.
You want to take a break all night if I have to.
So come on. Yeah.
However, not everyone was comfortable with protesting.
I honestly don't know if I remember hearing about it. I know I heard about it afterward. I was not very comfortable with like the public demonstration kind of things. So I wasn't thinking that it was the best way to
Yeah.
do it.
Is there like another way that you think would be better?
Well, I'm not a demonstrator type person.
Yeah.
So, sitting down and talking with people probably does not work. But I would certainly want to try that first.
Yeah. The day after the Capitol crawl, some of the same activists went back to the Capitol, saying they were going to take a tour. However, it was only a way to get into the Capitol building itself. As more activists gathered, chants broke out and got louder and louder. Eventually, House Speaker Foley, Republican Leader Mitchell, and Congressman Hoyer came to assure them that the ADA would be passed and they didn't need to protest anymore. About 4 months after the Capitol crawl, the ADA was signed. Finally, after years of protesting and even arrests, the activists could rest. On July 26, 1990, President Bush signed the act.
I now lift my pen to sign this Americans with Disability Act and say, let the shameful wall of exclusion finally come tumbling down. God bless you all.
To this day, the ADA prevents discrimination against disabled people, making jobs, schools, transportation, and public buildings and areas more accessible to fit disabled people's needs. So, what role does the ADA play in your job?
It plays a big part of my job. And you came in and now you want to open up a store to sell clothes. If there is no ADA or accessibility to that building, so it may dictate you have to put a ramp in so people with disabilities can use that ramp. You may have to put a ADA compliant bathroom in.
What's your opinion on the ADA?
I think it was something that was definitely due. The majority, I'd say 95% of it, is very beneficial to people with disabilities.
The activists who took a stand during the Capitol crawl helped achieve the ADA, which still touches disabled people's lives today.